Hi, and welcome to another episode of Be the Teacher. Today I'm going to show you how to film a movie. As many of you know, I use my iPad to do my filming, and I use an app called Filmic Pro. It allows you to set the focus and the exposure, and I'm going to use it to film what is called coverage today. My friend Laura is going to come over to film a scene. We're going to show you how all the pieces come together and how much coverage to get in a movie shoot. We're just using basic lights and a basic Rode Video Mic Go microphone, and I hope you learned a lot about a film shoot in this particular video. Okay, I will see you on the other side, and thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. The initial recording of a scene is usually done with a master shot, a shot wide enough to capture the action in its entirety. But screening the whole scene from a single wide shot would be boring, not to mention all the detail would be missed. Ergo, crafting a film involves recording a scene from different camera angles, using different shot sizes to emphasize important elements of the film, such as a gun in someone's hand or a tear in someone's eye. This use of subsequent camera setups is known as coverage. Coverage is important not only to keep things dynamic and exciting within the scene, but also to ease the editing process of the movie. Observe the example of coverage from the Thomas Crown Affair, 1968. Among the several types of shots, we find long shots, medium shots, close-ups, high angles, cat in the windows, and reactions. In the movie, the scene is particularly silent, yet the amazing coverage is able to convey emotions and tensions. It is one of the director's tasks to create a shot list and thus define how the coverage will be before the principal photography starts. The director should know where the camera will be and what or who it will shoot. A movie with poor coverage always feels awkward, for it usually impedes the editor from accomplishing the much praised invisible editing. So, let's discuss how you would film and some of the rules you would use in filming. Let's start by going to our Filmic Pro app. Remember, by dragging down on the screen, you pull up a search menu. Type in the word film, and there's your Filmic Pro app, as well as the Filmic Pro remote. But let's go into the app first. We need to discuss a number of the icons that can be found on your screen. First, there's this circle, one of the most important icons. This sets the exposure. That's the amount of light that's coming in through the lens. You want to set the exposure so that the white looks white and so that the shadow is minimized on your subject. Of course, once it's set, you can set it by pushing this particular icon here. Again, like I said, you want the shadows to be minimized and you want the white to look white. But remember, if you're trying to be artistic and create a certain effect, you can move the exposure around and set it however you'd like. The next thing to discuss is this square. This is your focus. By moving this around, the camera will focus on whatever is in that square. And once it's where you'd like it, you can set it as well with the corresponding icon. Do not film something without setting and locking your focus, because if you don't do that, your camera will bounce. The camera will not focus on one particular object. So it is very important that at all times we are locking our focus. Okay, so the one other thing that I'd like to point out are these grid lines. Do you see these grid lines here that are cutting across my screen? This is so that we can use the rule of thirds. We never, ever want to put something in that center grid, in those three center squares. It's very rare that a subject appears in the center of the screen. This is usually reserved for commercials where a subject is the only thing on screen and needs to be in the center, or an interview where we may place someone in the center. But if you look at any of my 5-question interviews, you can easily see in those that I never put the subject in the center. They are always off to the right or to the left because that creates a more interesting shot. And that gets us into the rule of thirds. So you're beginning to understand coverage, but like I said, there were two rules that can help you as you're trying to get coverage for your particular scene. This first one is, like I said, the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds states that an image is most pleasing when the subjects or regions are composed along imaginary lines which divide the image into thirds, both vertically and horizontally. And like we said, the Filmic Pro app allows you to turn on a grid that divides your screen into the rule of thirds. It's actually quite amazing that a rule so seemingly mathematical can be applied to something as varied and subjective as a photograph, but it works, and surprisingly well. Look at both of these pictures. The rule of thirds is all about creating the right aesthetic trade-offs. It often creates a sense of balance without making the image appear too static, and a sense of complexity without making the image look too busy. Another rule that you'll want to follow is the 180-degree rule. You'll hear people talk about the 180-degree rule and not crossing or crossing the line when filming coverage. That's right, not crossing the line. So what line are they referring to? If you can imagine an actor walking or running in a direction, then you can picture the path they are following as a line. If two actors are talking to each other, then draw a line to connect the two places where they are standing and extend the line in each direction along the edges of the set, like this image here. If there are many actors in a scene, you can still draw a line connecting the two opposing sides of the action. The camera must always stay on one side or the other of the red line. All coverage should generally be shot from one side or the other of this imaginary line. The audience subconsciously forms a mental map of where the actors are located in the scene, and from the first master shot, they will be thinking about that. Mary is on the left and John is on the right. Like here, you see Laura on the left and me on the right. If you go to a close-up of Mary filmed from the other side of the line, it will suddenly appear that Mary has jumped to the right side of the set. So it would look like this. See, this kind of change is very disconcerting to an audience, and at least momentarily it takes them out of the story as they attempt to reestablish their understanding of where everyone is located. So you want to avoid anything that takes your audience out of the emotion of the scene. In the simple case of one acting or walking down the street, if the first setup shows them walking from right to left, then all the coverage should show them walking from right to left. If you jump to the other side of the line, you break the 180-degree rule, and it looks like the character has suddenly decided to return where they came from. You can do this, but you need to include a shot of the actor turning a corner for the scene to make sense. Get it? If you're going to show characters switching sides, you need to show the actors physically switching before you go to new close-ups. I've already recorded a number of shots for us to look at so that we can discuss the concept of coverage, so let's go into our camera roll. By recording data and using the slate feature, I know what each shot is by the time code here. So we can go into our camera roll and we can look at all the different shots. Remember, coverage is when you film a scene multiple times from different angles. So this first set of shots is our master shots. Okay. This is where Laura and I are filming the whole scene from beginning to end in a medium shot.
You brought me this.
Most master shots are American shots or medium long shots or even full shots, so that we're seeing the entire scene from a great distance. You'll notice as we film the shot again, Laura and I are making little adjustments. Listen in.
So you came.
So I did.
We know what our goal is in the scene, and we're changing the way that we're delivering our lines because we want each and every shot to be slightly different from one another. This way, when we edit, we have more information to use. But notice how we're leaving certain things in the same place, such as our hair and our body positions. This way, it will be easy to edit together. It's our lines that are changing and the intent behind our lines and our tone as we're delivering those lines. Also notice how Laura is on the left and I am in the right, and the middle is empty because we're using the rule of thirds. Okay, so we're filming a series of master shots. Now, we're lucky enough where we only have to do one master shot because we're able to capture all the action in our scene in one long-distance shot. Sometimes you may have to do multiple master shots from many angles depending on the action within your scene, but hopefully your scene isn't like that. Now, here's our first over-the-shoulder shot, and you can see that I am shooting over the shoulder of Laura and capturing my action. Notice how I'm on the right side of the screen and Laura's head is on the left side of the screen. And again, as we go from take to take,
Action.
my body is staying in the same
So
place.
you came.
Laura's body is
Yes, I
staying in the
did.
same place. And
You
we're
brought
delivering
me
the lines a little bit
this.
different each time. Let's listen in to this next over-the-shoulder shot so that you can see exactly what I mean.
Action. So you came.
Yes, I did.
Do you
And
see
you
how
brought
I'm
this?
changing up the performance? This way, when I get into the editing room, I'll have different takes that I can use to create the final version of my film.
Action.
Now we have Laura. Again, notice how I am
So
on the
you
right
came.
side of the screen, and now Laura is on the left side of the screen. And now she's looking at me. The
brought me
sides of the
this.
screen that we're on match the sides of the screen we were on in the master shot. And just like me, Laura is changing up her performance.
So you came.
I did.
And you brought me this.
What do you think?
And notice our rules of thirds in play. For example, remember those shots where I was on the right of the screen and Laura was on the left, and we had some space in between. We used it in our master shot, and we used it in our over-the-shoulder shots.
Action.
We don't put her directly
So
in the middle.
you
We
can.
try to change it up.
I did.
And honestly, we could have been a
You
little
brought
bit
me
better with this
this.
shot. She could be slightly over to the left. And because of her eyes, we know what she's looking at. She's looking at me and the object in her hands because the
Action.
eyes tell the story.
So you came.
I did.
And you brought me this.
You want what's on the left side of the screen to stay on the left side of the screen, and you want what's on the right side of the screen to stay on the right side of the screen. We also recorded room tone and reaction shots. Both of these can
Action.
be used for editing. Here, this is room tone. It's a moment of film where the actors do not talk and the microphones pick up the room tone. This can be used for editing. And like I said, we also recorded reaction shots.
Action.
See, Laura and I both gave a number of different reactions that could be used in an awkward moment of editing so that we have enough coverage to solve any issues that might arise. It could also be used just to make the final production interesting. Now, let's look at some of our edits. This is edit 1.
So you came.
Yes, I did.
And you brought me this.
This is edit 2.
So you came.
I did.
And you brought me this.
And finally, edit 3.
So you came.
I did.
And you brought me this.
Now, if you didn't figure out, after we did our room tone and reaction, we also did a series of close-ups. We did the first close-up of the keys,
Action.
the second close-up of the horse head,
This will make them laugh too.
and my third close-up, my favorite one, a kitten in the palm of your hand. Who doesn't love kittens? Now, let's go back and look at our second edit very quickly, and let's look at it without sound. If you didn't notice, there was what is called a continuity error. Did you see it when you were watching? All right, hopefully you saw it. And here comes another one. Let's go through this second edit just one more time. Alright, so we start off with the master shot of Laura and I, and the over-the-shoulder shot of Laura, and the over-the-shoulder shot reaction shot of me. Back to Laura, everything's going great, and this is where it all goes wrong. Wow, you can tell from the look on my face. Do you see it? Laura's hair is pulled back. That's a problem in what is called continuity. You see, there wasn't someone on set saying, Laura, your hair was up, and now your hair is down. So you always need a script supervisor, someone on set making sure that the body position and the look of the character is the same from shot to shot, even if we are making slight adjustments to the way that lines are delivered. And the continuity errors just don't end there. Watch this next part. After the horse, you're going to see that my body mysteriously changes and Laura claps her hands. Did you see it? That's a problem because people will pick up on that stuff. Let's watch one more time. Here goes. My body's different and Laura claps. So there's a few things that you'll want to remember. For example, you can customize the settings of the Filmic Pro app, and when you have them where you like them, you can lock those settings into place by touching the corresponding icon, very much like I'm doing right here. And don't forget, the most important setting is the focus. Yes, that's right, you have to adjust your focus. So you'll move the box to the object that you want to focus on, and when you have it where you want it, you have to set the focus. You must lock it in place. And you can also lock the white balance in as well when the white looks the way that you want it to look. Next, don't forget our rules. First is the 180-degree rule. Don't forget, the camera must always stay on one side of the action or the other. Otherwise, you'll wind up with moments where it looks like your characters are flipping from one side of the screen to the other. Don't forget, we showed it in that example with the two actresses. We showed how the camera must always stay on the right side of the line. It needs to stay on one side of the line or the other. So here are those actresses, like I mentioned, and remember, if you don't keep the camera on one side, it looks like they're flipping and magically jumping around the screen. That will only confuse your audience. Don't forget about your rule of thirds. You'll want to make sure that you're creating interesting images by using the grids that are provided in the Filmic Pro app and setting your shots up appropriately. Don't put something directly in the middle of the camera shot. Use the grid lines provided in the Filmic Pro app to set up your shot and create interesting shots, much like the ones that we see here. These shots are far more interesting than any of the shots that would have the subject directly in the center. Again, use those grid lines to create interesting shots. And finally, watch out for continuity errors, like this one when Laura had her hair pulled back. You want to look out for errors like this and avoid them, and if you get enough coverage, you should have enough film to cover up any unexpected errors that arise during shooting. If you are following along, then you are ready to film your movie. You will go out and get enough coverage, and when it is time to edit your movie, it's going to be great. Like I said, I'm just using a simple Rode VideoMic Go microphone. Rode has a number of products that will turn your headphone jack or charging port into a microphone. And I used a few simple battery-powered lights and my Filmic Pro app. And I have separate videos that help you learn how to adjust the focus and exposure. So that's it. I hope you learned a lot about filming and getting coverage, and I will see you next time on Be the Teacher.